Hey everyone, it's Alan Brochstein from Houston, Texas, and also from New Cannabis Ventures and 420 Investor. And I'm really excited for a lot of reasons. Probably the one you care the most about is that I think we're going to do better. And if you recall, with the cannabis stocks, if you recall, I kind of started saying that in June, and I really felt like the second half would be better. And in July, my model portfolios were all up 20% or more when the cannabis index was just barely up. And in August, I advanced another 3% or so when the cannabis index dipped a little bit but held its low from June. And then September came, and September was terrible. But I continue to believe that the cannabis sector is going to be a lot better. I think I may have talked about this last week, but I've been telling my subscribers at 420 Investor that there's a big if. If the stock market is in a bear market in general, then it's probably not going to do better. The cannabis sector is probably not going to do that much better. I don't envision cannabis stocks rallying when all other stocks are falling. Now, I can't tell you that other stocks are going to rally, but I might have talked about this last week. I know I talked about it with my subscribers. When the CPI report came out and the market shot up, I went from very long and happy to neutral and then short. And I made a lot of money in my own trading account. That's not cannabis stocks. 2 weeks ago. And last week, finally, my short trade, and I was 2 times short in my trading account, paid off. And I'm not going to get into details, but I am after Friday. So I was long coming into Friday, and I got long. I was very short Tuesday night, less short Wednesday night. Thursday night, I was a little long net, and I shorted again on Friday morning very aggressively. At the end of the day Friday, I was about 0.4 times long. So I believe that we're going to go higher, but I've been talking to my subscribers about we just might not. I missed it in September when the stock market crashed and it took us out, I think. And that may happen again. The gap that was left behind Thursday, it's a little bit distant now, but it's still there. And we may fill it. We may fill it and go up. And we may fill it and make a new low. So I don't want to tell you what I think is going to happen because I really don't know. I can tell you where I am right now and just tell you that I think there's a lot that could happen. But I'm very excited about cannabis stocks. Long story short, I wrote on Seeking Alpha again. I used to be a very big Seeking Alpha contributor, but when cannabis took up all my time, I kind of quit writing. But recently I've been writing. I wrote a few weeks ago about trying to remember that article. I wrote a few weeks ago about, I think it was about ancillary stocks. It wasn't titled that, but there was no featured stock in there. And I liked the article a lot. I know I shared it with you. And this week I wrote the second one. And the second one was about how I think MSOS, the ETF, is not the way to play. And I think the idea of investing in MSOs is okay, but they're 76% now. It was 75% a week ago in the top 5 MSOs. And I don't think that they're bad, so don't get me wrong, but I think that they are overvalued compared to other MSOs that are smaller but still big, and more importantly, to ancillary stocks. So you can read that. I'm going to put a link to that article in the summary. And I would say, Seeking Alpha gets me to my third point I wanted to make besides cannabis stocks. So this week was big for me because after nearly 2 years of talking to Seeking Alpha, I'm going to Seeking Alpha. And That's not publicly known yet. I'm not going to put it in writing, but you listen to me every week, and I want you to know if you want to join 420 Investor Now, you still can. Uh, but we'll be moving over the next year from the current provider to Seeking Alpha, and I'm really excited about this for a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to get into it now, but I did want to let you know I'm not hiding anything. But it's not live yet for the public. That's going to probably happen at the end of the year. I'm working on transitioning my existing subscribers, effectively immediately if they want, to up to a year later if they don't want. And so that's where I am. I'm really happy. And for a lot of reasons, I'm really happy. I'm not going to talk about that today. I have my teeth, and that's part of it, but that's not really it. There's some really great things. I will tell you one thing. I was kind of a perfectionist before my accident, and I was really hard on myself when I wasn't perfect, and nobody can be perfect. If you're like that, you can maybe learn from listening to me. I am a former perfectionist, and now I'm enjoying life a lot more, and so that's really it. So I want to go over the week. This is all based on a letter, email that I sent out yesterday, an article that I posted for the weekly review. And my subscribers at 420 Investor are very broad, right? I have people that live, eat, and breathe cannabis stocks, and they don't need that weekly newsletter. But I have other people, including some CEOs in the industry and people that work in the industry, but also longer-term investors. They don't have time to read each and everything that comes out in the week. And so the goal of that note that's the basis for this video is to help people with once a week to catch up on what's going on. So I'm going to go through it now. And the only news that came out last week relevant to the whole market was the Michigan October sales. Remember, we had Illinois earlier in the month, and October is pretty good. It's very recent. And Michigan's numbers weren't that great sequentially. October is a longer month than September by a day. And so just if it were the same thing, it would be 3% higher. And it was actually 1.2% lower between adult use and medical. Medical's been plunging, and adult use, I think, was down a little bit sequentially. And compared to a year ago, it's still really good. And I know a lot of people, they see the falling prices and they get all hung up, but the prices were too high. They're coming down, and the market is growing. Dollar volume year over year. Unit volume even more. Okay, so that was the news. I also published my usual 3 articles that I publish every Friday night. I'm not going to mention them, but you can click on one of them, the basis for last week's video. But this week's video, I'm going to put a link in the summary, and you can click on it too. The other article I wrote, and by the way, thank God earnings season is over. And I got really nervous my first earnings season after my near-death experience in August, but I did okay there. I did even better this time. And what do I mean by that? By giving all my subscribers at 420 Investor a preview and then posting it all in a timely fashion to New Cannabis Ventures, and then reviewing all the 10Qs that come out and trading and doing everything else I do at 420 Investor. This time, it really worked, and I'm very happy because the next earnings season doesn't really start till February, 3 months away, but it runs into the end of March, really, into April, technically. So the other thing I did this week, and it's the last one for a while, is I did previews of 8 companies that reported this week. I had already shared 2, so there were really 10 of my 33 now. No, 32. I took one off. 32 focus list names that reported this week. I'd already shared 2. I had to give 8 more previews. So it was a busy week. I also published, as I mentioned, that piece at Seeking Alpha, and You can read it now. The name of it is I Am Bullish on Cannabis Stocks, but Not This Leading ETF, which is MSOS. And if you read New Cannabis Ventures, you probably read some of these points when I ripped into MSOS, which is the biggest by far. And then also there's a newer one that launched, and they're just as bad in terms of concentration. Okay, so this week there was a lot of news, and I'm going to go through these rapidly because we're in earnings season, and all the important things are published at New Cannabis Ventures. But let me hit it really quickly. Ascend, opened its adult use store in Fort Lee. And I used to live near the George Washington Bridge where Fort Lee is based. And I know that area very well. It's going to do really well, I can tell you just from my own knowledge. That was one. They also opened a new medical, I didn't get that in the thing because it came out after the close, but they opened a second dispensary in Pennsylvania. Columbia Care came out with Q3 revenue, nothing very exciting there. CEA Industries reported their sales, and it was up a lot sequentially and from a year ago too. A little number. And I'll give you a free tip. This is one of the positions I own right now, and if you can tell me what I'm missing, I would appreciate it. But to me, the stock trades below its cash value, which really doesn't make sense to me at all. They're not burning a lot of cash. They are burning a little bit of cash, but it trades way below its cash value, and there is no debt. And all the warrants that they priced are way out of the money. Okay, next one's Cresco, and the biggest thing about Cresco, they only grew revenue, it fell 2% from a year ago. But they did say that the Columbia Care deal has been pushed out to Q1. And so there was always talk that they would get that closed by year end. And I like Cresco. It is a tier 1 though, and if you read my article, you know I don't own any tier 1s. I do like Cresco a lot. They are a client of New Cannabis Ventures too, but I think that right now my view on tier 1s is negative, and they are a tier 1. And that's just a timing pricing thing, not about their companies and the long-term creation value. The next one's Kronos Group. They named a new CFO. The next one is Curaleaf. They rebranded nationally Grassroots, who they acquired. Charlotte's Web had a really bad Q3, and they did announce a convertible note investment by BAT. Now you should know, I follow BAT closely. I like Organogram, and BAT bought them over a year ago at what's a high price compared to now. And so I do pay attention to BAT, but I don't care about convertible notes out of the money. Now, there could be more to it over time, and I think at the right price, which I don't think Charlotte's Web is, then that's something to pay attention to. Right now, forget about it, in my opinion. The next one is Goodness Growth. They grew revenue 41% from a year ago, but that's the least of their problems. Green Lane had already pre-announced, and they posted their Q3 numbers, and it was really weak, but they'd already pre-announced it. GrowGen announced a partnership with GrowDan. Jushi came out with results that missed expectations, but they're also pricing, in the middle of pricing, a convertible note deal with warrants. And the stock performed very well this week. I'll leave that to you to figure out whether you should buy it or not. Jushi. MAPS, WM Technology, they named a new hire as the chief marketing officer. Organogram announced an agreement with Intercure that it would expand the shipments potentially of their flower to Canndoc, which is owned by Intercure in Israel. Spring Big, which is a tiny little company, but I think interesting, increased their revenue 22% year over year, despite all the woes that we're having in the industry right now, to 7.4 million. Scott's Miracle-Gro named a new CFO from the outside. TrueLeave opened an old harvest facility as TrueLeave in Arizona, and it also opened a new one in West Virginia and in Florida. Tilt Holdings was really busy this week. And they did report their earnings, and the revenue was a little bit light, but they had a lot of other news, including that they're making, and this is very important. I don't think people realize this, but I think one of the overhangs on the company historically and still technically is a lot of debt due very soon. But they're making progress on this. They're really close to getting this resolved, and they talked about that this week. As well, they announced a deal with Old Pal in Massachusetts and a new client. The Concept LVT, which is a proprietary initiative of theirs. They announced. What did they announce? A new DAB solution for that. So they're becoming more of a consumer products company. And then finally, they announced a new client, House of Buds, that has something, a product named after someone named Aiden. Tilray launched a program to provide women in Canada with free information and resources. And then finally, Verano, they didn't have a great quarter. I mean, it was okay, but they gave reduced guidance, and the stock didn't seem to respond to that. But like I said earlier, I think we're about to shift into a good time. And so when I may sound negative on some companies, and I am negative on some companies, but in general, if I say I don't like something, it's not that I think it's going down. It's just I think there are better things to buy. And that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years very well, finding the best things to buy. The next thing I like to do is talk about the performance this week. And it was kind of a quiet week when it was all said and done. We were up in the global cannabis stock index by 0.4%, and that was a little bit better than the S&P 500, which was up 0.2%. So year to date, we improved from 53 and a half, I think. I'm trying to find it. I'm not seeing it right now. From 59 and a half to 59.3. So a little bit of improvement. My model portfolios are all doing better, but not this week. I did a little bit worse. How so? And by the way, in Q4, I know we had a terrible Q3. The global cannabis stock index in Q3 plunged, but in Q4, it's up about 18% and change. That is a lot more than the S&P 500. That's from the low, the all-time closing low. And I think for someone like me who's bullish on the future, that is something that kind of supports my view. But I wouldn't get married to it, because if we go into a bear market for stocks in general, it's not going to be a quick improvement, and we may pull back. Flying High was down 16% in Q3, and it was down 0.6%. So a little bit worse than the market. It is down a lot year to date, 41.5%. And I'm trying to make money, so that's not good. But it's down a lot less than the market. I've been long and wrong. I'm sure some of you have been the same way. The other two model portfolios are 420 Opportunity and 420 Quality, and they were down this week as well. But they're still beating the index year to date. You can read more about it by clicking through to the link. Finally, I want to go over the calendar for next week. It's very light. On Tuesday, Indiva Limited is going to report. And then on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, if you're Canadian, you should realize, you probably already know, the U.S. market's closed. But you know who didn't know? The people at the Green Organic Dutchman, T-God. And they're having their conference call that day. That's like Bruce Linton used to do, and he was sick about it. He wanted to do it that day. I liked Bruce, by the way, but I didn't like that. So that's really it, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great Thanksgiving and a good week ahead. Take care. Bye.